Shalom, shalom. First off, I'd like to give all praises to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rakal and to my elders James who taught us this truth. Shalom to them, and shalom to you brothers out there scattered out throughout the four corners of this earth and preaching this gospel, preaching this word, and risking your lives to do so. Shalom to you brothers. So I want to get into this whole doomsday clock and how everything is speeding up, for the time of Jacob's trouble and everything, and the whole doom's clock and everything that's going on, prophecies being fulfilled. You have wars and rumors of wars, and you have the starting of civil unrest here in this country with ICE, and how they're trying to deport illegal immigrants, and you have the liberal versus the conservative, and they're clashing, and now they're killing, Edomites in the streets. You know what I mean? They're killing their own now to try to push, to try to send that message that, listen, they coming with this new world order, and nothing's going to get in the way of that. Nobody's going to come and try to stop what they have, what they're trying to establish. You know what I mean? And they're trying to establish a new world order. A police state. They want to take away the guns. You know what I mean? Because that, the last incident that happened with the Edomite dude that got shot down the street, he was a concealed carrier out in Minnesota. And, after they disarmed him, they tussled with him, whatever, fighting with him. They disarmed him. That's when they shot him. They're trying to send a message. You know what I mean? And then Trump, came out and basically said, that, he shouldn't have had no gun. That was a bad thing for him to do. And, being a concealed weapon carrier, you know what I mean? So they already letting listen, you ain't going to just be, you're not, try to fight against us or try to intimidate us any kind of way, whatever. We do the intimidating. You're not going to do no kind of intimidating. You know what I mean? And it's like they when that happened to them, they were just sending a message like, listen, we coming with this new world order. We're coming out these tyrannical laws and things like that, the tyranny, and we're going to just establish what we're trying to establish, and you're not going to stop it. And that's the message that they're sending. And that's just, that's all leading to the doomsday clock and, the symbolism from that. And I'm just read a little bit of the article. Let's start off. The doomsday clock ticks closer to midnight. Does anyone care? No, because people are still in this docile ass state and shit, thinking shit gonna get better, and they're gonna fight against the government and they're gonna prevail. But anyway, the doomsday clock is a symbol of how close humanity is to destroying itself. Has moved from 89 seconds to 85 seconds, 4 seconds closer to doomsday. That is the closest the clock has ever been to midnight. That's when, in the metaphor proposed by the keepers of the clock, the world ends, according to the scientists and experts who oversee the ritual setting of the doomsday clock. The end of the world is more possible now than it's ever been. But in 2026, I feel I don't need a reminder. It says President Trump, mass police have executed people in the street. We were just talking about that. The last nuclear treaty between Russia and the U.S. is about to die, and tech oligarchies are constructing massive resource-sucking data centers to power an unwanted nuisance technology they say is a path towards a godlike super intelligence. That's the AI technology shit and all that. Why watch the clock? What is the point of keeping time? I have watched this ritual timekeeping for a decade, and I confess I am feeling numb and clinical about it. Clinical, yeah, I think it's clinical. It says the doomsday clock began ticking in 1947, 2 years after Albert Einstein and a group of Manhattan Project veterans funded the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, the organization that sets the clock for almost 8 decades. Generations of the world's brightest minds have gathered once a year to tell the world how screwed it is. Alexander Bell, the current head of the Bulletin, said the doomsday clock is worth preserving. Of course, Bell describes himself as a late-stage Generation Xer of the clock. She told me in a call last week has always been part of her life. One of every 4 movies on TV was a nuclear one. She said the clear and iconic lines of the clock have been present in pop culture for decades, most notably as a Democratic image in Alan Moore's Watchmen comic book. According to Bell, the symbol is important. It's clear that people respond to it. If you simply had a set of scientists deliver a statement about the state of existential risk, would it have the same global reach that the clock does? All right, I ain't gonna get too. I think it's a pretty lengthy article, but the point, I just wanted to make the point that, you know, Esau knows we're at the end, because he got this old thing, that they started with the doomsday clock and how, basically, Esau was given, was it saying Job 9 and 24, the earth was given unto the hand of the wicked. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, I'm going to bring that out. This is Job 9 and 24. Hold on, so loud. All right, I got it. Job 9 and 24. The earth is given unto the hand of the wicked. He covered up the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? The wicked, we all know who the wicked is. Starting with Amalek, you know what I mean? And on down to Esau, you know what I mean? Amalek runs the world, you know what I mean? He's the top of the nations, you know what I mean? He's numero uno when it comes to, running everything, controlling everything, the media, the resources, everything. He runs the world. And then Esau is like right behind him, running shit, whatever too. You know what I mean? Keeping Jake in line, you know what I mean? Oppressing Jake. They both oppress Jake, but you know what I mean? They both have a hand in the wickedness. And they run the world, they run, they start up these wars, they fund the wars actually. They fund wars, especially Amalek. He fund the wars. You know what I mean? They steal, like I said, they steal resources. They go into these different countries and shit like that, whatever, and just destabilize these militaries and take over. Put their own influence or whatever, within, these certain countries, whatever. You know what I mean? So, this devil is the devil, man. And, and that's why the scripture says that, I'm going to get that scripture too. It's a lot. Esau is in. All right, this is Second Ezra 6 and 9. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of that followeth. That's right. That's right. Esau is the end of the world. He's going to start all these wars, and we're going to have nuclear war once World War III starts, and Yahweh Shai comes back, and this place being decimated. But the new kingdom is going to start with Jacob. You so-called blacks, Native Americans, and Hispanics. You know what I mean? Judah, Benjamin, Levi, on down. You know what I mean? The kingdom of heaven is going to get rejuvenated through us. You know what I mean? It's going to be established through us. Peace and safety and everything is going to be established through the elect. You know what I mean? The scripture also say, when the wicked are when the wicked are in rule. Well, I'm gonna bring that scripture out. I don't want to butcher it. When the wicked. Okay, I got it. I think we're gonna Proverbs 29. Proverbs 29 and 2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. That's right. People are mourning right now. People, are in they're upset right now. You know what I mean? With all this shit that's going on with Trump being in office and all this division and Satan being divided against Satan. You know what I mean? With these whole laws and the people freedoms are getting taken away, and people rights are getting taken away. You know what I mean? So people are getting upset right now. People are fighting back. And there's a lot of these Edomites that fighting back because this is still their kingdom. Their kingdom is about to be destroyed. It's about to transform to some other shit that they don't want. And that's gonna become of the New World Order. The MOTB and AI and shit, everything taking over. You know what I mean? They don't want that. These people don't want that. They want shit, what it is, they want to still have their, their laws, whatever, the constitutional rights and shit just still be, on the table and them, living a certain lifestyle. You know what I mean? They're trying to crash this economy. Everything is, you can't, nothing's affordable here. Bills are sky high. You know what I mean? Especially if you just have one income. People are suffering. People are, going through it. And people are, trying to keep this shit, afloat. They trying to fight to have things be better, and it's not getting better. No matter how much you go up against this government and, who you vote for and who you bring into office, they don't give a shit. They trying to implode this place, this economy. And once that shit once the economy goes down, the dollar, the petrodollar is trash. Currency, all that shit is gonna be no good, and it's gonna be the MOTB system. That's gonna be, and made pushed forth. And if you don't take that, if you, don't bow down to the beast, you're dead. They're gonna just disregard you. You're just gonna be off the system, off the grid, and that's what's coming. And things are happening, things are moving, things are shaking, and like I always say, we're rejoicing, we're happy right now. Shit is moving. Sooner or later, we ain't gonna be out there teaching. No more. We're not gonna be out there. The famine of the word. That's going to take place. Things are speeding up, and the Lord is speeding things up for our sake. Because we've been sighing and crying, praying for, for Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, with those angels will come back. And the Lord, Yahweh Shai, will make his second appearance. That's what we're waiting for. But, that's it I had on that, the doom clock, inching closer to Babylon being destroyed, to all our war breaking loose. Our salvation being there. That's all that clock is basically saying. Our salvation getting nearer. And Esau knows that. He knows that. That's why they're trying to fight to keep this fucking place afloat and keep this place going. And try to fight against the government, which they're not going to win. That's a losing effort. But with that, Lord willing, this has been edifying. Until next time, Shalom.